Now ask for the live stream to be started, and apologies for a slightly late commencement of the meeting.
I can confirm, Madam Chair, that the meeting is being live streamed.
Thank you. Welcome to this meeting of Cabinet. In addition to Cabinet members and other councillors present in the room, we also have some councillors joining us in our meeting remotely. I'll now check that we can that they can see and hear us, and we them. We have Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can hear and see you.
Councillor Hardwick.
Chair, yes, I can see and hear you.
Councillor Balderson.
Yes, Chair, I can hear and see you.
We scroll it on a bit, or can the clerk please read out councillors' names?
There are no other councillors on.
There aren't. No. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Right. Thank you very much. We also have a number of officers attending who will be introduced as they are called upon. We have group leaders and their representatives and scrutiny chairs. Thank you. I will now formally open the meeting. The agenda papers and other relevant information for this meeting are available for public viewing on the Herefordshire Council website. The Council is streaming this meeting live on the Herefordshire Council YouTube channel and making a recording. To ensure that recording quality is maintained, please speak clearly as possible and keep background noises to a minimum. Microphones should be muted when you are not speaking. Please ensure that mobile phones and other devices are turned to silent. Others are permitted to film, photograph and record our public meetings, provided that it does not disrupt the business of the meeting. As we move through the agenda, in addition to discussion by Cabinet members, I will invite group leaders or their representatives, where appropriate, to provide views and questions from their group on each item. Where appropriate, I will also call on scrutiny chairpersons to comment on behalf of their committee. Voting will be undertaken by a show of hands in the room. Only Cabinet members physically present in the room may vote. So moving on to item 1, which is apologies for absence. Have any apologies been notified to the clerk?
Thank you, Chair. I've apologies from Councillor Hitchener, Cabinet members, and then also apologies from Councillor Lester, Councillor Howard, Councillor Silverhurst, and Councillor Stark.
I've also received apologies direct from Councillor James. Are there any other apologies? No. Declarations of interest. Are there any Schedule 1, Schedule 2 or other interests for items on the agenda today? Thank you. Minutes. To approve and sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of September 2022. Cabinet members, are you content that the minutes are an accurate record? Yes, that's approved. Thank you. To receive any questions from members of the public, we have received 2 questions from members of the public at this meeting, and a response to each has been published as a supplement to the agenda papers. Those members of the public who have submitted questions have an opportunity to submit a written supplementary or to join the meeting to ask their questions live. I will now ask the clerk to confirm if a supplementary question has been asked for each of the questions submitted?
Yes, we have a written supplementary for question 1, Chair, from Mr. Mackay. So I will pop that up on screen and read that on his behalf. Mr. Mackay says, I do not find any public rights of way glossary of terms that includes CRF that you believe is available on your website. And I ask if you could clarify how and where it may view the link to it, and if not presently on the website, if you would add it in the same way and time as you intend adding the list of anomalies.
Councillor Harrington.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Mackay. It is on the website, but it's on the Herefordshire Council website and not on the Prowl sort of sub-site. So what we'll do is make sure it's added to that as he suggested. Oh, if I can just add, it is under terminology on the herefordshire.gov.uk at the moment.
Non-intuitive location. Okay,
That's a fair point.
right. Let's correct that then. Question number 2.
I believe there is a supplementary question, Chair, and I believe the questioner was intending to ask it in person.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Please come forward. Thank you. The heaviest chairs in the world.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. My question's about the concerning FII figures. Last week at full cabinet, the deputy leader reassured members about FII cases using these words. We as an authority are not in a position where the number of cases we have is unusual when considered against other authorities. It now turns out that this reassurance was premature as the urgently needed audit of FII cases have not been completed. The written answer to my question from the Cabinet Member for Children has confirmed that the audit is at an early stage only and will not be complete until mid-November, over 4 months after concerns were first raised by members in July. I am concerned that once again a reassurance has been provided to the public without, it appears, there being evidence to back it up. At the A Common Bond meeting last week, we had a room full of traumatised parents, many of whom say that they have been falsely accused of FII and are living with the devastating ramifications of such accusations. Council is now the subject of very serious allegations, in essence that the authority has been weaponising FII against families. It's troubling that when undertaking the much delayed audit, the authority has not sought independent scrutiny of its actions, laying itself open to accusations, but it has opted to mark its own homework. The Cabinet Member in a written answer to me commits only to publishing the FII audit evidence sometime after the 18th of November. Will she commit today to publishing the evidence on the 18th of November so that we can all understand on what basis officers are challenging the lived experience of the numerous families who are claiming to be victims of false FII allegations?
Yes, thank you. Yes. Can you hear me? Yeah, so we did search our systems following the full council meeting. We searched our systems, and the result of that is as explained in the written answer. This audit is a further step over and above that, and I'm very pleased that our Children's Commissioner is also involved in supporting us and helping us with that. But I can't see any reason why we can't publish findings. Yes.
Sorry, you've already committed to publishing findings and asking for commitment to publishing it on the 18th of November. That was the question.
If it's ready, yes.
Thank you. The next item is to receive questions from councillors, but there have been no questions from councillors submitted to this meeting. And there are no reports for this meeting from the scrutiny committees. So we move to agenda item 7, which is the Transport Hub approval of outline design, specification and cost plan. This report presents an update on the Hereford Transport Hub project and seeks approval for the cost plan to be included in the capital programme. It takes forward steps identified in the 22nd of July 2021 Cabinet report for the Transport Hub. This item starts at page 24 in the agenda pack, and I'll hand now to Councillor Harrington, who will introduce the item. Councillor Harrington.
Thank you, Deputy Leader. I think you've described a lot of it very well already. But essentially, yes, we have, obviously we had originally the Hereford City Centre Transport Project, which comprised many different elements, including City Link Road, Transport Hub, and also improvements to Commercial Road, Newmarket and Blue School Street. As has been well laid out in the past, costs that are estimated on land purchase out of the budget of 40 million, which was up to about 17 million so far in land purchase, meant that money allocated for not only the design but the building of the transport hub is not likely to be sufficient. In fact, it's definitely not likely to be sufficient. So this report lays that out, that we have been able to use what budget is still within the original 40 million to design up to stage 2, REBA stage 2, the transport hub. And this asks for permission to go to the next stage, which is more detailed design, and also to ask for the allocation of capital budget of 6 million to make sure that we have the estimated 10 million within that budget to take forward the development of the building of the hub in due course. We have got and I say the 6 million because we think that once we have finally closed out all the existing land costs and compulsory purchase disputes, which we are very close to finishing, there should be about 3 million. So therefore, we're going to need an extra 6 to finish what the estimated cost of the hub are, which are going to be £10 million at the moment. That's about the gist of it, really. So this is asking Cabinet to give approval to make these requests and to agree for us to go from stage 2 to stage 3 in design.
Thank you. Have I got any comments or questions from Cabinet members? Councillor Tyler.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I really welcome this report. It's long-standing. It needs to be brought forward today to agree the second stage, and we're looking forward to the changes that happen around the transport hub. So I'd like to support it. Thank you.
Councillor Davis.
Yes, just wondering from Councillor Harrington, from your perspective, I know that you'll probably get bored of me talking about the Policy Act, but I will continue to do it. Can you confirm that the next stages will undergo a full EQIA, especially given that it's next door to the medical centre and are almost opposite our hospital?
I'm sure it is, but I will insist it does. If it's not, I'm sure it is, but yes, I'll make sure of that.
Thank you.
Councillor Chowns.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Councillor Harrington and officers for taking this forward. As Councillor Tyler said, it is really long overdue. We desperately need a public transport hub in Hereford, and I look forward to this going forward as rapidly as possible. Thank you.
Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I completely support this proposal here today, Councillor Harrington. It will continue this improvement journey that we've been on for several years now. It will improve accessibility and encourage active travel, which is one of our main county plan themes. And you know, the last administration did actually start this, so we've got to recognise that, which is you know, getting it all off the ground. Much consultation has been concluded and many concerns or queries have been considered and adapted into this plan. So thank you, and I do support you.
But definitely, can I just come back? So just on those points, there's still, this is still an opportunity. We had some very significant consultation sessions with councillors and also with other stakeholders. And those consultations and those responses that came back will be considered in stage 3. So we're not pushing to a stage that means that we're not responding to those. So that's still there. And I didn't mention that obviously we put an application in to the Levelling Up Fund 2, I think it was. So we're hoping to hear back on that. We're supposed to hear back in the autumn. We'll see when we hear back.
Thank you. This report has not been to the scrutiny committee, so there are no recommendations from scrutiny to consider here on this one. Can I turn now to group leaders? We've had apologies from Councillor Lester. Is there anybody representing the
Yes, Chair. I'm representing Councillor Lester.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Would you like to give your group's comments, please?
Thank you. Yes, I will. The Transport Hub has been part of a successive administration's plans for the city, and our group welcome the plan coming forward. However, the group were concerned to see that the preferred option involved DIRO, that's drive in, reverse out. The Health and Safety Executive warned that a quarter of work-related vehicle deaths occur when vehicles are reversing. In Banbury bus station, a person was killed by a reversing bus, and following HSE intervention, 2 people are now employed to provide permanent banksman cover. In Huddersfield, another DIRO station, another fatality. In Plymouth, as recently as August this year, Stagecoach were fined £380,000 after a person was killed by a bus reversing in the depot. Close to home in Dudley, the DIRO design was consulted upon and opposed by councillors on safety grounds. In Starbridge, a similar DIRO proposal was proposed by designers, but after fears were raised over health and safety, the design was rejected in favour of drive-in, drive-out arrangements. In Appendix 3, the SIFT analysis, the preferred option DIRO has no comment made in the safety consideration about the dangers of reversing buses. All options are well examined in the Bus and Coach Station Design Guide published in June 2011 by the Urban Transport Group. A key recommendation is that a full safety case be made for any option considered. The group were concerned to see that the options appraisal did not give any quantitative measure to safety. In effect, the inherent lack of safety in the DIRO design was excluded from the consideration in arriving at the preferred option. A simple palliative statement that any safety issues can be managed or mitigated is all that is provided. This is concerning and would surely concern the HSE should any incident subsequently occur. I think that council will want to see a full safety analysis has been completed before allocating further capital, and the basis of selection is a matter that scrutiny may well choose to examine if any recommendation is made today. In section 4.7 of the business case, the choice of design and build and traditional is mentioned. The group were unclear what choice was made. The traditional route means that the risk is retained within the council rather than transferred to the contractor as in design and build, and we think that should be recognised. It would appear that Weston Williamson and Partners are the lead architect and designers. Are they providing the design warranty or another part of the consultancy team? And is this for a full 12 years as recommended? Given the significant cost of the contract for a hard landscaping contract with a minor building, the group would recommend that a value engineering review by all parties be conducted to ensure that the efficiencies in the design have been considered. 3 other minor queries were raised by the group. On page 24 of the business case, 6.3, the economic case, there is mention of 60 years and discounting. It would be beneficial to have the discounting rate used and an explanation. It is unclear whether the £82 million excess is before or after discounting, and evidence should be provided of how it is arrived at. In paragraph 14 of the report, it states, the outputs are on track and some have overachieved. This is not obvious from table 1, which follows, and the group would welcome knowing which outputs have overachieved. Does the housing units definition include individual student bedrooms or only domestic homes as defined in legislation with individual rating values? And finally, paragraph 48 of the report confirms that political groups consultation has been undertaken, but does not comment on any issues raised, like the concerns about the DIRO recommendation, although I recognise that Councillor Harrington has mentioned that that councillors' concerns will be considered in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Councillor Harrington, would you like to come back?
I will come back. I think I've come back on the first 3, and then if Councillor Shaw will indulge me, I think we'll get some detailed responses that we can share on the more technical, smaller details that you can smaller but significant concerns.
I'm very happy to have something written later.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Shaw. So in relation to DIRO, DIRO was the preferred choice of professionals in this field. DIRO is how many bus stations across the UK operate at the moment, including Gloucester City, which has got a flagship station recently delivered to a very high standard, which is operating very well. I take on board the concerns. The DIRO has, in a sense, 2. If you look at the plans, has 2 blocks, which people are not supposed to walk on. But I take your point about safety and trying to mitigate as much as you can in relation to that, and without hopefully the necessary need for banksmen, etc. But a bus would go into that further block and reverse back out into its other blocks. In other words, no one should be walking across there. It's an understood system, and it works in other places. You mentioned some deaths. We certainly will follow that up and look at that and see what the mitigating factors were there, or what the actual causation was there. I take it as a serious and genuine point raised. I will follow through on that and give a further response. I think there was a technical question after that. Sorry, Councillor Shaw, I've got just lost slightly track of that. You asked me about the efficiencies, which we can wrap up in the other questions, but there was a question after you mentioned DIRO.
Yes, after I mentioned DIRO, I think the issue can be resolved by a safety case, but I think we need to see the safety case within within the business case, so it needs to be provided. The question I had was about the lead architect and designers and the design warranty, which is a technical issue, and I think you're going to probably have to follow up on that. I don't expect you to have that necessarily off the top of your hand. And then there was some minor work. Perhaps if I put this question, these things to you in writing, that would be helpful, because they are
they're quite technical.
They're technical. Yeah, no, I can understand that. The non-technical issue was with the concern with DIRO, and it's been raised by a number of members of my group.
Okay, and we'll make sure that we have a proper consideration of that, and we provide the answers in relation to safety audits or any further work that might be done. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. And do we have any comments from representative of the Green Group, Councillor Marsh?
Thank you. Yes, I'm very glad. We are very glad to see this underway, and regret the fact that overruns have, under the previous administration, have made this a longer process than one would have liked. The space as it stands is both particularly unfriendly to pedestrians and also an ecological desert. So that will be a major improvement. And because it is a relatively flat and open space, it seems that will help, that there are a few constraints. It's been useful to be able to see the small, whatever it's called, the 3D mock-up that Councillor Harrington has brought in, which I'm sure will be available for other people to look at. And certainly looking at that, the Darrow bit seems to be a very short reverse, but obviously I'm in no way a technical expert. And in general, we very much welcome this getting underway as soon as possible to improve connectivity and the setting of the station.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. Do we have a group representative for the True Independents? No. Councillor Ginman for the Independents for Herefordshire Group.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 12 points. First, I was very pleased to hear your response to the direct question. That was, I know, one that we'd raised with you anyway, but it's good to hear it raised here in public and know that you're following it through. I do think that is important, that we get a safety report, and I think I'm pleased to hear that's happening. Can I just pick up on the out of scope items that are in there? One always notices this sort of danger of silo developments of things. And so the out of scope, whilst I appreciate they're out of scope of the particular project, can I seek reassurance that there will be suitable liaison with those bodies that are responsible for those areas that are out of scope? Most notably, I mean, the station upgrade, the station car park area, it's all part of the same entity. Just because somebody else runs it and owns it, I think there's a danger sometimes that we sort of go stepwise in an attempt to upgrade one bit, then the next, and then the next. It'd be good to try and bring it all together. So talk to whoever's responsible. Can I also look at the traffic modelling? I notice which is not includes out of scope traffic modelling and signalling at the Station Road junction. Well, that whole piece has been subject to a lot of comment over the last few years. And again, I would hope that we can see a little bit of joined up thinking as to how that's all going to work and work together. Because if there are to be increased flows into the hub and therefore out of the hub in different forms, it is very important that this whole thing works as one. So I look forward to seeing perhaps a bit of comment around what is deemed out of scope, but whoever's doing it and who's responsible for it, I think we really should have some comment around that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harrington.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Ginman. So you raised a very good point, and unfortunately, we always have this issue of when we have funding, how far do we stretch that funding, or how far do we go with it outside of an area? But it is important to remember that the original scope and the original costs, the original funding for this was to include improvements to the City Link Road in a sense, and also to, well, was part of the City Link Road was part of it, and to parts of Commercial Road and parts of Blue School and Newmarket Street. Unfortunately, because of the overspend on the road building element, well, not so much the road building element, but the extra purchase of land, which is difficult to understand or even see precisely what justification there was for that at the time, it has meant that the scope for the transport hub has been focused very much on the hub. However, there are things that we have asked the design team to do to make sure that anything that's designed within the hub considers future changes that may be coming, because there will definitely be future changes coming. We are definitely going to put a better cycle and segregated routes on the City Link Road. We are definitely going to improve the costing, or at least change the times and make other improvements, timings of the lights, and make other improvements. There are definitely the need to make improvements to Commercial Street to make an understanding of whether there will be a cut through the back of the Merton Meadows on land that's currently the Essex Arms, so the old Essex Arms site. So if you notice the design as you come out, is very much a radial design, and in a sense that's a sort of indicator that we're going in all these these, 180-degree directions. You might be going left, you might be going right, you might be going straight on. I expect all our design team to understand the implications of that. We are actually separate to this. There actually is a piece of work. There's an audit going on, which was required after the City Link Road was built. There's an audit going on precisely how that road is working, and it relates particularly to the junctions, not just for traffic but for pedestrians. That work will be done soon, and that will help us understand where we are. But there is, yes, a point taken that we need to consider all the implications, even if they're currently out of scope at the moment. And the intention is that we will, if we are, fulfilling the original brief and designing what we should do in a modern 21st century city, we should be considering the next stages of all that work. And that's the way we've approached this. What will be the next outer stage?
Thank you, Councillor Harrington. That's the end of the group leaders. So if there are no more questions or comments from cabinet members, can we turn to the recommendations, which are as follows? That A, Cabinet approves the cost plan for the Hereford Transport Hub design, and B, Cabinet approves that the project proceeds from planning and design stage 2 to delivery stage 3. Cabinet recommends to Council the inclusion of an additional amount of 6.33 million into the capital programme, which is the levelling up bid that has been submitted, and D, that operational decisions be delegated to the Corporate Director for Economy and Environment in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Transport and the Section 151 Officer. Cabinet members, can you indicate? I think we'll take this all in one block. Those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Excellent. Moving on to item number 8. Really pleased to see this coming to Cabinet. This has been awaited for so long. Peterchurch Primary School rebuild, to approve the rebuilding of Peterchurch Primary School on its existing site. And this item starts at page 69 in the agenda pack. And the introductions, I think we've got 2 cabinet members. This is a double-handed effort. Councillor Davis, cabinet member for commissioning, procurement and assets, and Councillor Toynbee, cabinet member for children and families. So Councillor Toynbee, I'll ask you to go first on this one.
Yes, thank you. I'm the warm-up act for Councillor. Yes, thank you. As you say, hooray, yay, it's actually coming to it, and it's a piece of really good news. So we are being asked to take decisions today about the future of Peterchurch Primary School. As you all know, Peterchurch is a local authority maintained school in the Golden Valley. So you might say it's still one of our schools, which I'm very pleased about. It has a very good reputation and it's hugely valued by the local community. As you also know, the premises have been in a not good enough state for a very, very long time, and they're now in very poor condition. Over the years, repairs and maintenance have been very costly to the council, and there's, inevitably there's been short-term thinking by force of necessity when we should have been able to do more long-term thinking. And discussions about the future of the school, its possible replacement, renovation have been going on, as we've said, for about 10 years, at least 10 years. So I'm really pleased we finally have a proposal to agree and to implement the new build. I'm very pleased that members of all groups have had plenty of opportunities to contribute. We've had plenty of discussions, and I'm sure that colleagues in other groups and other parties are as keen as we are to get moving. The local communities also have lots of opportunities that feed into our consideration of options. Just to pick out one of those options, which was explored in detail and did bring about a lot of discussion, was building a school on the Fairfield site, but expanding the current primary school site, which is in the heart of the village, is the preferred option. As you know, this is what happens when I don't have a little bit of paper. I don't like it. So funding's always been very challenging on this project, but manageable. But now it's extremely challenging due to inflation, especially in business costs, building costs, as we know. So one of the consequences of that is the proposal that we do not refurbish the swimming pool, and the reasons for that is set out in your papers, and that's also been subject to a lot of conversation. And as you can see, there is time built into the recommendations for the community in the Golden Valley to come up with proposals for a business case and funding for a possible pool. So it's very good. I'm really pleased to be presenting a project that brings together three key elements of our policies as an administration. Firstly, ensuring that buildings are as ecological as possible, built to a high passive house standard, above the legal minimum requirements. This is something which is one of our priorities. In this case, PV panels, natural light, excellent insulation, air source heat pumps, and more. It also provides a healthy and attractive and child-friendly environment for learning, which is really close to my heart, including a nurture hub that emphasises the fact that education is about a lot more than just learning stuff. Nothing is more important than children getting the emotional support they need to grow in confidence and to encourage their love of learning. And thirdly, education is also about community. And this project is an example of the sort of thing we want to see more of, schools being a central part of our communities and a resource for all. So this is an opportunity to create a beautiful school that Herefordshire can be really proud of, that focuses on quality of life and social value. So I'll trust you agree that this is a really positive project that we can make a decision about today. And I'll now hand over to Councillor Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis.
Yes, I'm delighted, I suppose that's an understatement, to see the decision for Peter's Church School finally coming for us in Cabinet today. I believe it was the first meeting that I had with the Children's Property team back in 2019, where we first discussed the topic of Peter's Church, and I learned how long we've been waiting for a decision to be made on this. There were times, and I'm sure for most members and councillors, and certainly the residents of Peter's Church, that I thought we would never get to this point. But I did promise the ward member, Jenny Hewitt, that we would get this done exactly the same way as we would get places like Marlborough done. I want to say a massive thank you to three specific officers here, so Kerry, Quinton and Karen, who have spent such a long time working on these proposals. Your enthusiasm to want to do the very best for the children attending Peter's Church Primary is second to none. I also want to say thank you to the residents of Peter's Church and surroundings for their patience throughout this long period of uncertainty. And to the ward member, Jenny Hewitt, for her tenacity in constantly chasing me and pushing for the very best for her residents and the children going to school. Only this week, Prince Charles talked about the sadness that vocational skills, he praised the value of technical skills and apprenticeships, but he also described the lack of vocational education as a great tragedy. I feel very much the same about the ability of schools to be able to care for not just a child's educational needs, but also their social, mental and physical well-being. That's why I suggested at the beginning of this project that I wanted the schools that we design and build to have this ability placed within it. I'm hugely grateful that we are committed to doing this in the medium term. Just wanted to say thank you again to everybody involved in this, and I look forward to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Any comments or questions from other Cabinet members? Councillor Chowns.
Thanks. I'd like to echo what Diana and Gemma have said, and just specifically appreciate the work of officers and the commitment of this administration that's resulted in this school being designed to minimum passive house standards. It's so important that when we build new buildings, we build them with the future properly in mind, especially buildings for children, but all buildings should be to high environmental and social standards. So really welcome that, and yeah, I hope it will be the case for everything we build from now on, at least.
Thank you. Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's good news, isn't it? the slight fly in the ointment is that the pool cannot cannot be included, and we've had many discussions about that. But the inclusion of the nurture hub for me, I think, is something that's really brought home to me. You know, we are looking at inclusion and starting off from very young age to make sure everybody is looked after. So yes, long time coming, and thank goodness we're getting there.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to say on the swimming pool side of things, it's good that we're leaving the space, so the opportunity for something to be built in the future remains open. And I attended planning committee yesterday when housing development site was given outline planning permission adjacent to and surrounding the school site. Which has yet to complete negotiations with the developer on section 106 and specifically the amenity green space that comes forward with that development. I think the opportunities for ensuring that community play space and sports space is used wisely between this development and that housing development is there for still open through the negotiations which need still to take place for 106, and I hope that they can come to a successful resolution that gives the community what it's looking for as that development comes forward also. So you know, I've got my fingers crossed with my planning hat on for that. Also on the finance side of things, that the contingency is sufficient to see this project through to conclusion. I can see we've got a significant contingency that's been made available here. And so with that, if there are any, Councillor Davis coming back there.
I am. Just to say, absolutely in agreement with you about leaving the space available for them. And if anybody is watching from the community, we would absolutely welcome you to come together to try and come up with a proposal, because I'm with Councillor Crockett. You know, we know that teaching young people to swim at an early age saves lives. So if we can do something and we can work together, then, you know, the solution that you've just talked about in regards to 106 monies, we could be looking at things like that. So really want people to come forward. As we've said, we want our schools to be part of the community and the community part of our schools. So we'd love to work with them.
Thank you. And if that's concluding comments from Cabinet members, again, this specific report has not gone to scrutiny committee. So there are no recommendations to consider from any of our scrutiny committees. So I'll turn to group leaders and I'll take comments in the same order as previously. So Councillor Shaw, to you.
Thank you, Chair, for favouring me first again. The Conservative group are in favour of the development of the school rebuild. 4 comments were raised, and I'll perhaps take them in one by one this time so that we don't get confused. While we were full of praise for the highest building design standards being adopted in the development of the design, is there any information of the additional capital cost that any of these additional design standards to the construction of the school have occurred, and how these are reflected in the whole life cost, which presumably is lower than would have been the case if they had not been included? I think this would help the narrative for the adoption of the design case and the whole life savings. And indeed, going further, could a BREEAM standard be envisaged? And for those who aren't familiar, that's the Building Research Establishment Environmental Assessment Method. Although more complex to apply in practice, the BREEAM standard is concerned with a lot more than energy conservation. The standard takes into account carbon emissions as well as energy conservation and is more holistic than the passive house approach. BREEAM considers the environment and infrastructure surrounding the property, good management, water conservation, biodiversity, transport, pollution, waste management, etc., including the construction activity itself. To date, outstanding BREEAM rating has only been awarded to less than 1% of non-domestic buildings in the UK, and serves to inspire developers and others to improve, innovate, and make effective use of resources. Our group get the sense that the council aspiration for the new Peterchurch School is beyond the Passive House moniker, and would request that a BREEAM rating target be at least considered as part of the procurement. So that's my first comment. If anybody wants to come back on that.
Yeah, I'm going to pass over to Councillor Changs, because all of our recommendations for what happens with our buildings actually come from the building standards. So I'm going to hand over to Councillor Changs.
Thanks, Councillor Shaw, for your question. You'll note in the report that this building is targeting a minimum passive house. What we're doing is setting a kind of a floor for levels of energy efficiency, and energy efficiency is in consideration with this. The team have been doing a lot of work looking at the sort of standards, and indeed in the development of our net zero building standards for our own housing, BREEAM was also considered. BREEAM Excellent is better than what typically has been done, and I'm perfectly happy to I can't make a commitment, it's not my thing, but absolutely, it is implied in our commitment to addressing the climate and nature emergency that we're also interested in other aspects of environmental performance of buildings, and indeed the report talks about things like water efficiency and so forth. So insofar as I can assure you, I'm very happy to assure you that those aspects of BREEAM will be addressed, but BREEAM is not as effective in guaranteeing high levels of thermal performance as targeting passive house. So we're just very specific about the energy efficiency elements of the proposal. That's why passive house has been adopted as the baseline, if you like, for what we're targeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Perry wanted to come in. I can see him nodding his head, but I wasn't sure if he wanted to say something. He's got his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, councillors. I echo everything that's been said there, folks. When we were wrestling with a way of keeping this within the budget envelope, actually even buying the certificate for some of the BREEAM stuff was quite expensive. So I think we've come to a sensible conclusion here. I think the cost of the certificate, never mind the actual work, was £25,000. So there was a pragmatic decision behind that bit as well. Thank you.
Well, I would just like to come in and just say, thank you for the consideration, and I'm pleased to see that BREEAM was considered, and that there are reasonable reasons why that process wasn't one that we've gone down. Comment 2, a very simple one. Paragraph 18 suggests a timetable for procurement, but does not suggest whether this will be by design and build or traditional contract. Is this a decision being delegated to officers? Do we know?
Yeah,
it is a decision being delegated.
Yeah. We're hoping you'll give approval to delegate it today. Actually.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Just some clarity. Paragraph 4 of the report states, should the additional classrooms be built and the school not fill, this would become a financial burden on the school, as it would have to pay business rates on the unused space and keep the additional space maintained. Now, I'd understood that maintained schools and academies no longer pay business rates to the council, that direct payments to the billing authorities are made by the Education and Skills Funding Agency on behalf of DFE, commencing at the 1st of April this year. And if Herefordshire has not opted to receive the funding in this way, can I ask the 151 officer why not? And if we do, can I suggest that the paragraph's amended after advice from finance? I don't know if Andrew is there. I can't see him, but or if he knows.
He's here, he's waving.
Mr. Lovegrove.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we do. So happy for the report to be amended.
Thank you. Thank you. Just like to be correct. And one further comment, any loss of a swimming pool obviously would be lamentable. But I think any business case for council investment in such a new facility at Peterchurch would also need to be countered by the need for such facilities elsewhere in the county. And any investment by the council should include a cost-benefit appraisal of building at other sites, such as at Bromyard, where the nearest authority pools are 12 miles away at Leominster or Ledbury. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Is that your last
That's the last comment. There's 4 comments for that
Great.
agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Marsh.
Yes, thank you. As we've heard several times, this has been a very long standing with the capital provision made in 2015. So it is indeed a great pleasure that it is now coming to fruition, and also will be to the standards that we deserve to take going forward. I think that is mainly it really. I think that we can prevent it from academisation, but I know that our options are limited, and that's well outside the scope of this matter.
Thank you. Councillor Ginman.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments from Independence for Herefordshire. First of all, I'd like to pay tribute to my fellow councillor, because next door ward to me, Councillor Jenny Hewitt, who has been absolutely doggedly pursuing this, I know. And I indeed have many people within my own ward who will be attending, the children will be attending that same school. So I can say that it's with great pleasure that I'm hearing what I'm hearing today, and very much a case of I sincerely hope we can not only take this forward, but take it forward with a degree of speed. I noticed the comments throughout about how long it's taken to get to this point. Can I suggest that it might be a useful case study to look at why it's taken so long to get to this point, and to see if indeed there are ways in which we might actually improve council performance across everybody involved, to see if indeed there are ways. Because one of my concerns is, and I can assure that Nigel Shaw, Councillor Shaw, we will be filling the school. We're quite good at breeding in that part of the world, and I have not the slightest doubt that we will manage to fill the school. But my problem is that we've already filled the other schools in the area. So we already have enough children, and we need more schooling capacity in the area. So I think knowing why it takes quite so long to get through these processes is rather important. With regard to the swimming pool, I think there's a real opportunity here for engagement of the community. And I would sincerely hope it's something we can take away. It's not just for Peterchurch Parish Council because of the catchment. It's a long way from Peterchurch to Bromyard. And I can assure you that putting a swimming pool somewhere in that great length of the Golden Valley so that it could be used by all of those in the area would be, I think, a really useful point. And I think there's a danger of being too parochial and thinking purely, will it benefit the particular pupils there? Let's look at what happens in Michael Church, Longtown, Lewis Harold, etc. All of those schools could benefit from this and reduce any journey times, which have been a real problem, and journey capacity to take children to other swimming pools. So on that basis, I'm very happy to see this going forward. I would, of course, make the point, being involved with the health committee, that one of the areas we were looking at was obesity. And one of the best things you can have for trying to get activity is swimming. So I sincerely hope that this could be considered in that sense of adding into another policy where we really want to try to improve the well-being of children physically as well as mentally, properly educated. And here is a great opportunity to take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ginman. Councillor Davis, do you want to come back on that?
Just a quick one. There's somebody who suffered for her entire life with obesity, that actually it's very important to look at the exercises that people can do, but it's more important to look at that mental and physical reason for how they've managed to get into that position in the first place, which is why we're putting forward the Nurturing Hub. I guess it's, if we had a huge amount of money, we'd be able to do everything. That's why I think that the best decision would be if we can get some agreement within the community and wider to keep this swimming pool open, because it's not just young people that need to learn how to swim, older people need to learn how to swim as well. So I think it's much wider than that.
Thank you. Right, If there are no more comments from anybody, we'll turn to the recommendations, which are legion on this item. So I think rather than me reading them all out and taking up all the oxygen in the room, I will just refer Cabinet members to the recommendations as set out in the report papers and ask Cabinet members to show those in favour. Thank you, that's unanimous. Great, let's get on with Peter Church School. Yay. Yay.
Thank you, thanks.
Thank you, Mary.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your help. Thanks.
And moving on to item 9 on the agenda, which is support for Ukraine. And this is another report I'm really pleased to have coming to us today. So with this one, we're seeking approval for the spend plan, which details our funding from the government for the Homes for Ukraine sponsorship scheme will be spent. And this item starts at page 85 of our agenda pack. And I'm not going to steal Councillor Crockett's thunder. I'll hand straight over to you to introduce this item. Thank you, Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And you've already stolen the thunder. Yes, I'm absolutely excited and pleased to present this final paper detailing the support proposed for Ukrainians in Herefordshire on the Homes for Ukraine support scheme. Cabinet reviewed this proposal in July this year, and since that point, we have learned about arrivals from Ukraine, both in terms of numbers and also in relation to needs arising. The Homes for Ukraine scheme was launched on March the 14th this year by the government, and the scheme allows individuals to sponsor named people from Ukraine. As of Monday just gone, we have 511 guests that have arrived in this county, residing with 189 sponsors. The sponsors are expected to provide guests with accommodation for a minimum of 6 months and will receive a thank you payment of £350 per month for up to 12 months. The government issued guidelines to councils outlining their role within the scheme, including a number of safety and safeguarding checks, which we would all expect. As well, they supply the provision of support to both the sponsor and the Ukrainian guests. The government is providing funding at a rate of £10,500 per person to councils to enable them to provide this support to families to rebuild their lives and fully integrate into our communities. A team has been established to manage a range of operational activities required for the success of this scheme, and I thank this team for their due diligence. In addition to the operational team, the scheme has had significant impact on a number of other council teams for whom additional resource has been needed, including the Housing Solutions team, English as an additional language team, school administration team, safeguarding, early help, talk community, community commissioning and finance. And again, I'm sure there's something I've missed out, but I thank them all for this collaborative work. Community integration projects and activities are being supported through a council-run grant scheme. This offers a flexible response to need as it arises, and it enables both the development of new projects as well as the continuation of work already started to support guests and sponsors across the county. The government is providing additional funds for councils to provide education and childcare services for children from families arriving from the Ukraine under this scheme. Decisions to allocate these additional resources have already been taken under delegated authority and recorded in record of officer decision in order to ensure timely provision of these services. Cabinet is therefore asked to approve the recommendations within this paper in relation to the support being offered to these Ukrainian guests, and to delegate responsibility to the Corporate Director for Community Wellbeing to undertake operational budgetary decisions in relation to that implementation. Finally, I'd just like to thank Councillors Gandhi and Ianson for sharing their positive experiences with us in past meetings. It's an extremely difficult time for our guests, and I hope we will continue to support this government-funded programme at our local level. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Crockett, and I'll open the discussion up to Cabinet members. Questions or comments? Councillor Davies.
Bit of both. So I suppose comment first, and just to share a really great lived experience of how it works in Herefordshire. Yesterday, I attended the Kindle Centre's annual general meeting, and was privileged to hear from a family of Ukrainian refugees who had come to Hereford and Herefordshire. I'm saying Hereford because it's in the Kindle Centre before anybody tells me off. And they were talking about their experiences and the welcome that they've had from people, not just in Herefordshire, but specifically within the Kindle Centre. And I heard stories of how they've been able to obtain jobs, but more importantly, how everybody seemed to help them with their language. One of the individuals actually got an award yesterday for the biggest improvement in English for the small amount of time that she'd been here, and privileged enough to sit in front of her children, who one managed to get away while she was being presented with an award and ran just to see their mum and dad. And it just made me feel so proud of the response from Herefordshire. And I think COVID has shown us, Ukrainian refugees has shown us, that when Herefordshire is asked to do something, they do it well. So I just wanted to give that really great experience. I suppose one of the negative side of it is that I have had people coming to me asking about how does it physically work. So we know that there's huge waiting lists with regards to individuals getting housing within Herefordshire. And the question, as you would expect to ask, is what happens at the end of the sponsorship period? And then a family needs to transition into housing. How does that physically work with regards to queuing, etc.? So.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. It's really great to hear a testimony like that, and a real experience is what we all need to hear. And I thank you. As for the housing, I think it's really important to know that many Ukrainians are have sought and are already in jobs. So they are earning their keep. They are trying to get money towards housing, and they will not be given any beneficial uplift on the housing ladder. They will either go into private accommodation, which they will fund themselves or with some support, or they will join the home point system, which everybody is entitled to do. And the government have said this is the way that it should be run.
It's a great answer. Thank you. I know it really does clearly explain the process for people, and every person I have met from Ukraine has absolutely done what you said. They've managed to secure work and employment, and now they're getting their own place. So great to hear.
And you and Archibald, you had your hand up. Did you want to come in on that point?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Crockett has already provided part of the answer I was going to offer. I would underline that we are using a significant proportion of the funds available for government towards various housing and accommodation schemes in order to first of all maximise the opportunity for Ukrainian people to move into private sector housing, as Councillor Crockett has said, rather than any reliance on social housing. That includes incentive schemes for private landlords, top-up schemes, top-up funding in relation to local housing allowance for a short period, and a number of other schemes designed to promote people living independently in housing without relying on our local social housing as far as possible. And that's a key element of the provisions set out in the proposals today. But to underline very much Councillor Crockett's point about employment, this is of course crucial to people being able to live independently and afford and manage their own accommodation needs. And it is a very striking aspect to the Ukrainian programme just how many people and how quickly are finding employment for themselves.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tyler?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It's such a really good report, and I welcome this to help our Ukrainian families. It's such a sad story. Every day you see the news about Ukrainian and the war and the aftermath it's being caused over there. My heart goes to every single family that's come over here wanting support. I would also like to say special thanks to our group that was set up in the Three Arms estate, and they are still serving the community, providing the additional support they can get. And, you know, they are trying to make the communities work together and try and put a hub in St. Peter's Church, which is so important for the Ukrainians. And anything we can do as a council, we should continue to do. And that's why as bringing the communities into talk communities, hubs they've got around them. Any connection we can do, you know, as much as I can do in my constituency, I will try and support not just Ukrainian families, but all families that are in this time of crisis. And, you know, I really do welcome this report, and whatever we can do, let's carry on doing.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, I mean, I'd like to take a moment. I did say something during the leaders' report questioning in full council last week, but I really would like to take this opportunity once again to pay tribute to the Herefordshire response to this national call for families to open up their homes to Ukrainian refugees. The response from Herefordshire has been outstanding, absolutely amazing, and it's not just people who've offered to share their homes. There are all sorts of community groups which have stepped forward to help in so many other ways, as well as all the work that was already going on, providing goods and donations to send out to Ukraine to help people who are staying out there under really difficult circumstances. So Herefordshire, well done, amazing, really shows the heart that the county has for helping other people. So with that, this has not been to scrutiny, so again, sorry scrutiny, no voice here on this one. Group leaders, let's ring the changes. Councillor Marsh, let's give you first dibs.
Councillor Shaw will be so disappointed. Yes, I would like to pay tribute to just the incredible ingenuity of hosts and their the way that they've helped jump through the entirely predictable hoops and got people around. And like others, I know several Ukrainians who've now moved out and are relatively self-sufficient. And I'm pleased to see in Appendix A, in fact, it seems the largest single pot is the Community Support and Integration Grant Scheme at nearly 2.5 million, which I assume is a kind of flexible scheme which allows Herefordshire people to find solutions themselves rather than it just being left up to the county, to the council. So I hope I'm right in that. And yes, echoing everyone's thoughts on the very positive response from the county.
Thank you. Councillor Ginman.
Thank you very much. From Independence of Herefordshire, I mean, clearly this is wonderful read. Good to hear. The response has been amazing. I think it probably reflects also the fact that the close connections that there were between this county and Ukraine, even before the war, the number of people who were coming across were working here, predominantly in the agricultural side, but they were really great people. And the number of farmers I've spoken to who actually, the moment the opportunity came, got on the phone, sent an email, did whatever was to say, you're welcome, I'm here. You've worked with us. We see you as family. We don't see you as somebody in need. Come over. We'll make sure that we can find a home for you. We'll do what we can. And I think this support is great. So good to hear, good to see. It is so important we follow through. I can see reports from other parts of the country, real concerns about what happens when money runs out, what happens to these people. And that is so important. This is not a one-off event. It has to be part of a programme. And I suppose it also raises the question in the back of the mind, the Afghan and Syrian refugees that we've taken into this country and looked after. We mustn't create sort of two tiers of refugee, if I might put it that way. Those are people equally that came from a horrendous situation in their particular countries. We've welcomed them in. Let's make sure we keep that welcome up. Let's make sure we have ways and means of continuing it through. I'm sad to say, I'm sure that this won't be the end of it. I'm sure there will be somewhere else in the world at some stage. You always hope that, heaven forbid, it's ever our turn to be the other way around, but look after them as you would hope to be looked after yourself should that event ever occur. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ginman, and I know the plight of the people in Ukraine has a very special place in your heart, Councillor Shaw. So I've left the best till last on this one. Over to you.
Thank you very much. But I will be brief. On behalf of the Conservative Group, we very much welcome the report and commend the proposals suggested to utilise all the government funding available. And as well, we'd like to extend that commendation to our staff and the volunteers of staff from all the associated organisations working together to provide support for all our refugees being welcomed into Herefordshire in this difficult time. Only one query was raised. We appreciate the comments made in the report at paragraph 24. Access to transport can be a challenge to some families housed in more remote communities. Can I have any idea when the package of measures spoken about in the report might be agreed and advised toward members so that we can advise those persons residing in our wards what new facilities might be available? Thank you.
Have we got any information on that? Ewan, are you able to help?
Yes, I can in general, Councillor, thank you. Councillor Shaw, a pilot project of the free bus travel for Ukrainian citizens for up to a year is currently being piloted in the Ross area. That's underway, and we will shortly be able to review the outcome of that, and the plan, subject to successful performance of that pilot, is to extend that more widely to all Ukrainian visitors under the sponsorship scheme. Meanwhile, we have some time already been utilising some of this funding to ensure that school transport is available where needed for all Ukrainian families, whether or not they would have been eligible automatically under other schemes. So what we've done there is to use the additional government resource to sort of underwrite an already fairly heavily subscribed budget for school transport. So that is already in place, and we'll continue to respond to cases where that's needed. And we've also, as you'll see, made available funding for community transport schemes. I believe all of those schemes that potentially will use that have been identified. I think we're in the process of making arrangement for that funding so that those schemes can either continue or start. So it's all in hand. The public transport scheme is in pilot stage at the moment, but my expectation is we will roll that out on the conclusion of that pilot to the rest of the county.
Thank you, Ewan, and I look forward to hearing news on that, and thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Councillor Crockett, you want to come back?
Yeah, can I just point you in the direction of children in schools? So far, we have assisted 135 children to join our schools, and we do get additional funding for this support as well. So a primary school child, we get an extra just over £6,500, and for a secondary school child, we get over £8,700. So, we are looking after our children as well, and that includes in the transport, like Ewan's just said.
Brilliant, thank you for that extra bit of context. And with that, then I'll turn to the recommendations that come with this report, which are that the planned support for Ukraine and associated spending as set out in the report and at Appendix A is approved, and that authority is delegated to the Corporate Director for Community Wellbeing to take all operational and budgetary decisions in relation to their proposals and implementation, including the use of contingency sums and budget variations within the overall approved budget. And so, Cabinet members, could you indicate your support for those recommendations? Great, thank you very much. That's unanimous. And with that, I move towards the close of this meeting. I'd like to thank everyone who has attended and asked questions. The next meeting of Cabinet is scheduled for Thursday, the 24th of November. And